Kratos, or the Ghost of Sparta, is probably the most furious character in all games I know. Some say that one of the key elements to make a distinguished character is to look at his silhouette. But how do you make a silhouette stand out and be distinguishable? Just by looking at him we sense threat and power. And it becomes obvious after seeing his appearance in animations, even for people who don't know who he is. How did designers and developers achieve such an effect? Welcome to Grand Gaming Channel, and today I would like to talk about the God of War. Kratos is a manifestation of rage, fury and anger, but still Kratos was a Spartan captain, and considering how much we know about Sparta, it is clear that there was a risk of going down an all too familiar path. Designers of Santa Monica drew dozens of concept arts before they actually came up with the image of Kratos we know now. Kratos was a Spartan warrior, but he was still supposed to stand out. Some of the early concepts show quite detailed armor, some flowing things or long hair, about which we'll talk a bit later. In some cases he looked overdressed, or in some cases he looked not real in the setting he was supposed to be in. Some of the concepts even show kind of a tribal look, like a native of some African tribe. There was a chance that Kratos wouldn't become a loner at all. Authors even considered the idea of giving him a baby or a dog as a companion. As you can see in the first concept arts, Kratos looks quite cheerful, but his image was going darker and gloomier. Designers decided to try to cover his face with a mask or helmet. This way they could put more emphasis on a figure. On paper, this concept looked pretty good, but it ended up being too hollow. He didn't feel like a character with his own personality. While trying to do so, he was lacking something Greek. He didn't look like Greek enough, but at the same time, if Kratos wore a Greek uniform, he looked too generic and boring. Every time designers put another piece of armor, he looked more Greek, but was losing his individuality. At that point of development, he was supposed to look brutal. The word brutal would lead the team through their entire journey. One by one, artists started to take off parts of his armor, and with time realized that brutal may also mean animalistic, revealing the primal part of the character. They experimented with it for quite some time, but when they realized that Kratos is a manifestation of anger, chaos, they ended up leaving him almost naked. Because nudity is what unites all wild animals. And this is quite unique even for today. If you think about it, there are not so many male characters who decide to wear almost nothing on the battlefield. The only similar example that comes to my mind, and that obviously used God of War games as inspiration, is probably Asura from Asura's Wrath. He also resembles a furious animal, and also barely wears any clothes. Let me know in the comments if you remember any other male characters with such an approach. Designers and artists finally caught his violent nature and animalistic qualities, and instead of giving him traditional sword or spear, they decided to give him these famous swift and deadly blades on chains that look more like claws if you think about it. Not only is this a very unique weapon, but they would bring more dynamics and fluidity into the gameplay. While looking at his blades, you can realize that unlike most of the swords, these blades tear more than cut. And it suits the character even more. Seeing almost a naked warrior on the battlefield not only makes other people think of him as crazy, but you can also subconsciously read his rejection of culture globally and rejection of his past self personally. He's a rebel after all, one against the world. His facial features have a lot of sharp angles. Almost nothing is oval that subconsciously could be associated with anything soft. In early sketches, we saw that Kratos could have hair, but obviously this idea was rejected due to a number of reasons. I guess it was done so the hair wouldn't get in the way. Seeing the amount of blood Kratos had on his body, it would be harder to clean it, especially when the blood dries. Besides, have you ever shaved your head? I have. When you're bald, you can sense every ripple of wind with your head, which is extremely useful in the world where almost everyone wants to kill you. This is the same reason why in Avatar: The Last Airbender, all monks including Aang have their heads shaved, to feel the flow of air better. Something similar was done with Mary Jane in SpiderMan 2018. At first she was supposed to have loose hair and wear high heels, But after thinking that she's going to take part in the action, hide and need to see what's happening around her, the artists gave her a ponytail and much lower heels. Besides, it was pretty hard to make Kratos' hair look as good as developers wanted on PlayStation 2. The figure of Kratos is created in the image of a rock climber. His strength is seen by a naked eye. He looks like an antique statue with no fat, only muscles. It feels like you can cut yourself just by touching him. His posture is very self-explanatory. He looks very confident. The back is arched. The shoulders are straightened. He's leaned forward like challenging a person he's talking to. And it doesn't matter whether the enemy is smaller or bigger than him.
I am what the gods have made me.
He breathes with his whole body, and his muscles are always tense, ready to start a fight and take his blades out. While standing, he looks around, probably looking for a source of a possible threat. Because of the curse, his skin is pale white, and it's a perfect canvas for a red color, which is not only the color of blood, but also the color of his tattoo. At first, his tattoo was supposed to be dark blue, but blue is usually associated with something calm, reasonable and logical. Kratos is definitely not like that, so the color was changed to red. In the context of this game, the color of aggression, passion, and attention. This tattoo covers at least half of his body and resembles a birthmark of his brother Deimos, who was killed by Thanatos. This way, the tattoo turned into the mark of grief that visually constrains Kratos. And that's not the only thing that constrains him. The chains of the blades are also soldered into his flesh and probably cause pain every time he uses them. Also, developers used literal constraints that are presented in the armor he's wearing. Sometimes it feels like Kratos is too small for them. Feels like if he inhales, the armor will simply tear. Kratos seems bound on several levels. The way he moves is also quite unique. When he runs, it sounds like he wants to punish the earth he's walking, or hammer something in with his feet. Take a look at how Jim from Ghost of Tsushima moves, smooth and almost silent. Man, that's expected from a samurai/assassin. And when Kratos starts fighting, his movement looks more like a dance. He's always moving forward. Even if he takes a hit, it looks like his body absorbs the attack. He never fights standing in one place like a boxer. It's even seen in God of War 2018. Even if he takes a hit with his shield, he stretches out like a string, and either fights back or returns to the original position. Shields are usually associated with protection. Despite it, Kratos even uses a shield as a weapon. And the slow movement of anticipation before the hit makes us feel the concentration and the weight of the attack. This trick makes us feel an incredible impact. The elasticity of movements is visible not only when butchering enemies, but even when opening chests. The rebirth of Kratos in God of War 2018 is shown extremely well. He's a tired warrior whose skills are slightly dulled by years of a calm life. His movements are heavier and feel a bit awkward at first. He starts with a very limited number of attacks, but with time we learn new tricks, and more see the old Kratos. In God of War comic books, we could see how he tried to subdue his rage, not to be controlled by it. It is also represented in the camera. Before the reboot, the camera was completely fixed, showing you where to go and how to go there, always towards the main destination. But in the reboot, the camera follows Kratos. We can move it around and it feels like Kratos became more open-minded, became freer, and seems like he started to notice things around him. Yes, sometimes the camera moves away to show the scene, but in gameplay, it's controlled by a player. Nevertheless, although Kratos tempered his rage, we can see that he's still unbendable. Thank you for watching. If you liked this short video, Feel free to support me with a like and leave a comment about what character you would like to see something similar. I'll pick the most interesting ones and make videos about them. Check out my other works, they are worth watching. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next video.